Hi everybody and welcome to 2021. 2020 was a bit of a raw deal of a year, I think we can all agree on that. They canceled the Venture Brothers. A bunch of other bad stuff happened too. So in the spirit of fresh starts, I wanted to give myself a couple of New Year's resolutions. The first one is to do one single pull-up by the end of the year, and the second is to play every single game on NES Nintendo Switch Online, and I think I'm gonna start with the pull-up.
2 hours later.
That was a good pull-up. Okay. What was the other thing I said I was gonna do? Oh, the NES games, okay.
The NES, the console that gave the world Sesame Street 1, 2, 3, and ABC. And a bunch of less important garbage, too. The Nintendo Entertainment System, or the Famicom as it's known in Japan, was Nintendo's first foray into the home console market, and pretty much single-handedly saved gaming from the depths of a New Mexico landfill. The NES was a behemoth during its time and has remained a landmark piece of video gaming history up until this day. But because I haven't played through a ton of these games myself. Sure, I know the original Super Mario Bros. Like the back of my hand, but start asking me questions about Booby Kids or Cool World, and I have absolutely no idea, sorry. So I wanted to take a look at all of the NES games available on NES Nintendo Switch Online and just jot down my first impressions of them. But first, a few important caveats. I'm not going to play any of the special version games, which are basically just normal NES titles with unique save states, such as a version of Metroid that starts you off with all of your unlockable abilities right before the fight with Ridley. Because if I play any of those, I'll have to immediately drive to my nearest church and repent for the sin of cheating. I will only be playing these games in single player mode because I'm a coward who just can't handle my friends beating me at NES Soccer. Lastly, full disclosure, I'll be playing all of these games with the 8BitDo brand SN30 Pro Plus, which is probably the best third-party controller for retro gaming on the Switch. I'm not making money off of them or anything, I just thought people might want to know which piece of plastic my fingers will be groping today. Now that that's out of the way, let's get Nessin'. Starting with Adventures of Lolo. Okay, so in Adventures of Lolo, you play as this little dip whose red M&M wife gets stolen by Grimace, and if you don't catch him, he's gonna eat her. So that's an A+ for the story, but what the hell am I even doing here? So this is an adventure game where you gotta collect bubbles which push enemies to... What? After playing this for 15 minutes, I still have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing. Thankfully, if you hit the select button, the protagonist does us all a favor and kills itself, so at least that's a plus. Sorry, red M&M wife, but I'm sure you'll make a wonderful lunch. Balloon Fight. I played this one a lot as a kid because the original Animal Crossing let you play full NES games, and this was one of the few that I ever had there, and I like this one. It's simple fun, but good god, the sound effects are atrocious. Listen to this. Beep, 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 beep. But while I do like the gameplay, it also loses its luster pretty quickly. Like, alright, I pop these balloons. Anything else? I mean, to be fair, that description can apply to many NES games. A lot of them were obviously still stuck in the arcade mentality, you know, where the objective was to create a simple but addicting experience that would eat a lot of your quarters. Still good fun though, and I do appreciate the two different gameplay modes, but all in a short bursts kind of way. Baseball. I'm gonna say right now that I am not a fan of any of the NES sports games. I get that they're a product of their time, but I really can't think of a single one that's aged well, and they stop being fun or interesting after like 20 seconds max. That being said, let's see what baseball's all about. Pick a team? Why? What's the difference between Team Y and Team P? This game confuses the hell out of me, and when the camera switches position like this, I just... Okay, what's next? Blaster Master. In Blaster Master, you 2D side-scroll as a car with a gun because you. Gotta be honest, I was ready to write this one off because I really did not enjoy controlling the car, especially underwater. Good god, this is slow, please make it stop. But then I learned that by hitting the select button, you can exit your car and play as a little man. And then I learned that this is actually a multi-genre game where if you enter designated spots as the little man, you get to play some top-down shooter segments as well. After finding all of that out, I gave it another go without recording the footage, sorry, and I ended up respecting this one a lot more because of it. It's an ambitious game, but at the same time, I feel like it's a little bit too unforgivingly hard in some sections, especially with some of the top-down gameplay, and I still did not enjoy the controls of the 2D areas as well. It was one of the very few games where I instinctively found myself using the NES Online's rewind feature, which means I already have to drive to a church and repent. Overall, this is an admirable effort, but if I ever want to play something like this again, I'll probably just look into getting Blaster Master Zero, which is a 2017 reimagining of this game that apparently improves upon the original in just about every way. City Connection. This is one of the least enjoyable video game experiences I've ever had. The controls are slow, the collectibles are designed to look like bullets for some godforsaken reason, but you can't touch cats without dying. Why am I shooting these cops? What am I even doing? Why does this exist? Clue Clue Land. This is easily the most confusing game I've ever played. Price Alice. I know that's not what it's actually called, leave me alone. This is a Zelda-style adventure that I actually felt quite endeared to. I appreciate how quickly your character moves, and the fact that things feel less cryptic and empty compared to the original Zelda's world design is a big plus too. This is a surprisingly good-looking game for the hardware as well. I didn't get too far into it, but I liked what I played. Also, some of the enemies are Tony's the Tigers, what's not to love about that? Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong is such a classic game, man. It introduced the sexiest gorilla alive and a primitive version of Mario. Hot damn, what a deal! That being said though, I've never really had a whole lot of fun playing this game. If you fall more than like 2 inches, you just completely break your back and die, which is more realistic than Mario Odyssey's complete lack of fall damage, but much less enjoyable. And Mario Jumpman whatever controls so damn slow. It works, but it's so tedious to die all the way near the top and just have to slug your way back up again. Still, what a game, historically speaking. This one is so important and I'm glad it exists, but the ideas introduced in this game were expanded on and peaked in the 1994 Game Boy sequel or remake or reimagining or whatever you want to call it. That one is faster, more puzzle oriented, and features way less fall damage, so I'd highly recommend that game if you want your classic DK fix. Donkey Kong Jr. Look, I know this game has its fans out there somewhere, but I don't like controlling this stupid thing. Give me Mario back. Here's my problem with Jr. So in the original Donkey Kong, if Mario falls more than a solid foot off the ground, he dies. I wasn't a fan of it there, but it does at least make sense for a chubby plumber to not be able to fall very far. But why the hell can a nimble little gorilla fall more than that? And why does he feel so lousy to control? Jr.'s such a loser, no wonder why Mario kidnapped his dad. Yeah, I just don't really like controlling Jr. and maneuvering through the vines, but this game does show off Nintendo's desire to always innovate with their sequels, and I do appreciate it for that. Donkey Kong 3. I always forget this one exists, and I don't even blame myself. Aside from the mandated inclusion of Donkey Kong, this feels nothing like the first two, and is easily the least fun of the three. But I will say this. Donkey Kong himself has changed quite dramatically between these three games. In the original, he was motivated by his love for Pauline, and in the sequel, he and to a lesser extent Junior were motivated by a desire to be free from man's tyrannical rule. But in this one, he is free, and he has no woman by his side. He just wants to wreak havoc on this unsuspecting exterminator. He's motivated by nothing more than the desire for chaos, for raw power. These games are telling a gripping story of love, loss, redemption, and what it means to be alive. And we truly see this gorilla grow and become that much stronger for it. So, from that angle, yeah, I still don't really enjoy this one.
Hey Nintendo, add Donkey Kong Jr. Math to NES Nintendo Switch Online already, you f***ing cowards!
Double Dragon. There are gonna be quite a few more beat-em-ups on this list, so let me get this right out of the way. I've never really been a fan of beat-em-ups. There's only one I really enjoy, and that's a small Newgrounds Flash game I played as a kid called Dad and Me, which I enjoy more for its aesthetic and art style than its gameplay, to be fully honest. Still, I was surprised by how much I like Double Dragon. It's really fleshed out for the hardware, absolutely kickin' music, definitely a game I wouldn't mind playing more of, though it's really easy to cheese this first boss by just kicking it in a very specific way. That's kinda lame, but whatever. Double Dragon 2! Double Dragon 2 is the sequel to Double Dragon, with slightly worse controls. That's about all I have to say about that one. Dr. Mario. What is up with this title music? Good God, it's awful. But I've never been the biggest Dr. Mario fan. It's a simple puzzle game with good thumping music, although I think we can all agree that Fever is better than Chill. The viruses are funny, especially the chronically depressed yellow one. It's not bad at all, but I've always felt like it's just a little bit too bare bones of a concept for me to play hours and hours like I can with something like Tetris. Also, am I the only one who thinks that the pill pieces are just way too small considering how many columns there are? 1 out of 4 times I totally misjudge where I'm placing a pill and just completely screw myself up, but maybe that's just me. It's no secret that I suck at video games. Eliminator Boat Duel. I hate this game so much. It's ugly and it controls like ass. The game charges me money for accidentally hitting the accelerate button too early before a race. I don't even have a joke for that. F you. Excite Bike. I always liked this one. It's a racing game with a focus on balancing your driver, which is pretty unique. It's got a good amount of content, a CPU mode where a bunch of dipshits get in my way, and it even has a track editor. A track editor that I don't really understand how to use, but a track editor nonetheless. I can always enjoy picking this one up from time to time, and it's aged pretty well all things considered, but it's also a pretty simple package that can wear out its welcome quite fast as well. Ghosts and Goblins. I don't have a lot to say about this one. I know it has a lot of fans and it's a well-made game, but the gameplay itself just isn't my thing personally. But here's what I can really appreciate about this one. It succeeds at setting up an actual story to motivate you, and it has a sense of urgency like no other NES game has. Not even Adventures of Lolo can top this. The game is constantly urging you to hurry your ass up or your wife will be murdered, and if you get hit once, they steal your clothes to prove that they mean business. Still, if you're into hard as hell running gunners, this one is definitely worthy of your time. Gradius. This game is as simple of a space shooter as you can get, but the way that some of these enemies spawn so randomly can seriously jump off a cliff, come on.
Alright, these next two games are very chill. Ice Climber and Ice Hockey.
Ice Climber. Hell yeah, jump and break blocks, what's not to like? This is a really fun idea that's unfortunately bogged down by awful horizontal jumping speed and one of the smallest hammer hitboxes imaginable. These issues turned an otherwise solid game into a chore to play in my opinion, but hey, this game gave us one hell of a broken Smash fighter, so I appreciate it for that alone. Ice Hockey. Okay, another sports game. I'll try to have some fun here. I don't want to play as the USA, haven't been feeling super patriotic as of late. Let's try out Poland. I decided to play against the Soviets, which was a huge mistake. Look at how organized they are, just like in real life. Essentially, you control whichever one of your guys is closest to the screen, but it's just so fast and disorienting and not fun to actually play. Oh well, looks like the Soviets won. Jesus, it's 1993 all over again. Wait, there's another round of this? The Immortal. I gotta say, I didn't expect to play an isometric RPG NES game, and I respect the effort, but this is not really a fun experience to be honest. Everything about it is so slow, text boxes feel very intrusive, the combat? Well, I don't even know what the combat is in this game. The Immortal tries a lot of really cool and innovative ideas for the hardware, but in my opinion, it just about fails at all of them. Except for the music. Oh my god, this song is raw as hell. The NES wasn't built to handle tracks like this. Journey to Silius? Journey to Silius. This is a fairly average run and gunner, but I can't help but notice that there seems to be about a half-second input delay between pressing the jump button and your character listening to you, which annoyed me the entire time I was playing and completely rained all over my overall vibe. Sorry, really not feeling this one. It's fine otherwise, but it's funny how one small issue can totally bog down a game like that. Kid Icarus. Let me say right off the bat that I've been wanting to play Kid Icarus Uprising on the 3DS for years now, but the control scheme really turns me off and I hope that it's ported to a different console one day. That has nothing to do with the NES original though, because the two games have pretty much nothing else in common. All of that being said, this is the kind of mindless arcadey retro fun I can get behind. What the f*** is that thing? Kirby's Adventure. I've never really considered myself to be a Kirby fan, but color me surprised, I had a hard time putting this one down once I started playing. The NES Online app just totally glitched out on me and crashed the game while I was playing, something that has never happened to me before, which allowed me to get back to work, but the fact that I was so bummed out about it is a testament to how much fun I was having with this one. Also, why did nobody tell me about this crane minigame? This made me scream in real life, it's so stupid and rigged, I love it. Kung Fu Heroes. This one was extremely boring to me. Being able to flip like this kind of breaks the game and makes it way too easy in some areas, but at the same time, it's extremely cheap how quickly you're penalized for one single hit. Also, did this background music inspire Battle for Bikini Bottom's Goo Lagoon theme?
Alright, everyone's still having fun? These next two games are... I don't have a joke.
The Legend of Zelda. Wow, what a game. I have so much respect for this one, but my god, do I have some bones to pick with it as well. This was a genre-defying haymaker, much like the original Super Mario Bros. And Metroid, but while I think that those two still hold up quite well today, spoiler alert for upcoming games in the video I guess, I just do not like playing this one whatsoever. So much of the design requires consulting the game's manual, which I get emulates the feeling of adventuring with a map in your hands, but it doesn't translate well to actual video game experience. If you don't play with the manual or at least an online map, be ready to find yourself completely lost and or forced to consult a YouTube walkthrough to even begin figuring out what the hell to do here. I will always admire what this game did for the adventure genre, and it's incredible that over 30 years later, Breath of the Wild was able to fully realize what this game was trying to accomplish so many years ago, but I appreciate this one as a piece of history more than an actual game, that's all. Mario Bros, the game that started it all. Mario Bros sucks. It's definitely an important piece of gaming history as well, but I don't care. I don't even appreciate it existing. It's seriously that bad in my opinion. Why do you have to be so precise in order to flip an enemy over? Why does Mario control like he dunked himself in some thick Italian olive oil? And worst of all, why? Why do you have so little control over your horizontal jumping ability? This game came out 2 years after Donkey Kong, and the horizontal jumping in that game was fine. It wasn't great, but it was fine. You could always predict exactly where you would land, and it functioned well enough. But here when I try to jump left or right, I either launch myself 20 feet in the air or I don't budge a single inch. Not fun at all, but you can play as Luigi in multiplayer mode, so that bumps it up to at least an 8 out of 10. Metroid. First of all, I am aware that everything this game does, Super Metroid improves upon, but I'm gonna talk as if that game doesn't exist for a second, because holy hell, this was quite a marvel for its time. It's incredible how good this game is when considering the limitations of the hardware. When I realized that the Morph Ball upgrade was to the left of the starting area, that's when I knew that this was a game that was not messing around. Unfortunately, while pretty incredible in concept, the execution is quite lacking in some areas. An explorative game like this without a built-in map is like a fish without water, it just doesn't work. And when there are more than like 3 enemies on screen at a time, things turn into Chugfest 1986, but still, pretty great start to a completely new genre of gaming that I am still in absolute awe of. Mighty Bomb Jack. This looks and feels like a game that I should like. It controls well and the level design is functional, but good god, I have absolutely no idea what I'm supposed to be doing here. I've noticed that's a problem with a lot of NES games actually, especially the ones not made by Nintendo. Half the time if you don't have an original manual or any familiarity with what you're playing, good luck dipshit, you're on your own. What did you expect these games to be future-proofed? I personally don't like being confused while playing video games. I know I can look it up online, but I don't feel like doing that when I just want to sit down and relax with a game, so yeah, probably not gonna come back to this one anytime soon. NES Open Tournament Golf. Jesus Christ, look at my man Luigi, decked out in all green like this with a hottie on his shoulder. What a Chad! I've never been a fan of golf video games, even in Wii Sports and Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics. I find them to be quite boring, and that's no exception here. I totally understand the appeal, but they're just not for me, and this one is going for a realism approach that led me to hitting my ball in the putting green so many times that I gave up. Ninja Gaiden. While I've already established that I'm not a big fan of beat-em-ups, this is definitely a cool one. The control you have over this ninja is pretty nuts, even the extremely unnatural wall jumping, and after only playing for 5 minutes, I completely understand why people want Ryu in Smash. I respect the execution of this game quite a bit, and it shows how unique games were starting to break out of their respective genres even during this early moment of gaming. Nightshade. Nightshade is the newest addition to NES Nintendo Switch Online, having been added to the service on December 18th, 2020. Please, for the love of God, Nintendo, put your other systems on Nintendo Switch Online already! Pro Wrestling. It's pro wrestling, alright. I'm not a fan of this, but I can appreciate that your 2 main moves are either a simple punch or a magnificent twirl kick. Punch-Out! I've always really liked this one. It's a boxing game that works more as a puzzler, where the key to success is memorizing your enemy's moves. Once you realize that everything they do is telegraphed, you can easily succeed, and when you win, you feel it. I think that this is honestly one of the best games you can play from this whole era. The Wii remake is outstanding as well, by the way. The simple mechanics of this game work beautifully with motion controls, but Punch-Out is just good solid fun no matter how you choose to play it, and I really can't recommend this one enough. River City Ransom. I gotta say, I have quite a bit of fondness for this game. It has a wonderfully dank and grimy aesthetic, and as I've said in previous videos, I live in Los Angeles. I am big into that sort of hot garbage. From what I can tell, it even features purchasable upgrades that you buy with your enemy's drop money, which actually incentivizes you to fight beyond just simple bloodlust. That's awesome! Really good stuff going on here, and the fact that I felt largely positive about the beat-em-ups up until this point is really making me question how I actually feel about the genre. Do I enjoy beat-em-ups? Has my life been a lie? Rygar. This is a slow and not very fun game in my opinion. Why the hell did they put a bottomless pit in a room with an NPC?
These next 2 games are sponsored by Audible.
You are not sponsored by Audible!
Damn it.
Scat.
You must destroy them! The Earth is counting on you. Good luck!
Hey, thanks! This is a standard gunner, but with a twist. This guy tells gravity to knock it the hell off as he flies all around. That's about it, and I mean, it's alright. It's exactly what it looks like, and that's perfectly fine. It looks fine, it plays fine, it is a perfectly average NES game. Shadow of the Ninja. This game starts by introducing us to the tyrannical government of 2029. There's probably a joke about America in there somewhere. This one's alright. I prefer Ninja Gaiden more in regards to the NES ninja genre. Why in the absolute is this boss allowed to hide off screen? Soccer. What country is Ferg? Germany? Makes sense. It's just soccer. Damn it. It's a little bit less chaotic than some of the other sports games I've played so far, but... Okay, I've already had enough. This is definitely an NES sports game. Solomon's Key. This is a neat little adventure puzzler, and I can appreciate what it's going for, but this game has one major flaw that really gets in the way of my greater enjoyment of it. So you jump by pressing up on the D-pad, and for a game that requires some quick response time, it doesn't feel good and led me to dying way more than once. I mean, the game is well designed as a whole. I guess I can see myself getting used to it if I put my mind to it, and the choice was obviously due to the limitations of the NES's button-aversive controller, but it's definitely unfortunate. If you can get past that though, I think this game is definitely worth trying out. I thought it was an otherwise fun and interesting time, and it obviously inspired Minecraft. Don't you dare fact check me on that one. Star Soldier, space shooter game, you know what this is. I died 3 times in 20 seconds and gave up. Star Tropics. Chief Coral Cola, my guy, you look like absolute You're disgusting. Anyway, I'm gonna be fully honest, they told me to look for a tunnel up to the north of town and I just couldn't find it and gave up. Star Tropics is a very Zelda-esque adventure game. I sucked at it right from the beginning, so I don't have anything else to say. Super Dodgeball. My god, look at this flickering! And the camera, it's so slow to react to the action. It sucks because the gameplay of this one isn't horrible. It's clearly designed to be hectic and silly, which I can appreciate, but I just can't look at it. Also, this stage we're playing on is set in the USA. Can you tell? Super Mario Bros. What the hell can I say about the original Super Mario Bros. That hasn't already been said? One of the most important games ever made, still so much fun to play over 35 years later, such an iconic title, but Nintendo has not only built upon what this game did time and time again, but there are better ways to enjoy this first outing as well, such as the why the hell is it limited release Battle Royale Super Mario 35. So, still a masterpiece, don't get me wrong, but a masterpiece that has been improved upon and surpassed by Nintendo many times since. Super Mario Bros. 2. Aside from being the greatest game ever made, game of the year, etc, etc, yeah, I honestly never really got into this one as much as the other 2D Marios. It introduced a lot of cool elements to the Mario canon, such as verticality and Luigi's zesty little scuttle jump, but I always felt that it simply didn't play as well as the others, and it also clearly, you know, doesn't feel like an actual Mario game, which given its bizarre development history does make sense. Also, we need to talk about these Birdo boss fights because good lord, how in the hell am I supposed to implicitly understand that the way to win is to pluck its eggs out of the sky? You know, the projectiles, whose first instinct is to jump on what is essentially a bullet. Overall, it's definitely worth playing, but it's just not my favorite to come back to. But this game does include the best video game song ever concocted, so it's got that going for it. Super Mario Bros. 3. This was my 2D Mario of choice growing up. I absolutely love everything about this game. So much fun. I can understand why Nintendo refuses to give up on the nostalgia boner they have for this one. I feel like this was really the game where Mario's movement and design was firmly set and damn near perfected. And just look at all the things it introduces to the series. I honestly forget that this isn't an SNES game sometimes just for how expansive it is and for how much it feels like a true step forward for the Mario series. Man, what a game. Except for the Overworld 2 theme, which I've always really disliked. Is that an unpopular opinion? It's not a bad melody, and it sounds beautiful when reorchestrated in games like Galaxy, but it just does not sound good in 8-bit chiptune style, in my opinion. I've been holding in that opinion for years, and now I finally had a place to share it. Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, the true sequel to Super Mario Bros., originally only released in Japan. I have a bone to pick with this one. This game sucks. It somehow manages to take everything that the first game did so well and just make it all a little bit worse. The level design is more random and less intricately designed. Poison mushrooms can go eat themselves and die. The controls somehow feel even more slippery than the original. This game is no fun in my opinion, and I personally prefer if these levels stayed lost. Tecmo Bowl. Ugh, is it just a football game? I don't feel like it. Tennis. Okay, all jokes aside, gotta be honest, this game isn't as bad as the other sports games. How many more of these NES games are there? Twin Bee. This is your standard space shooter, but the fact that it takes place over a city makes it feel much more dull than some others in my opinion. It functions, and if you're into this sort of thing, you'll probably enjoy it. It's fine, nothing more, nothing less. Also, these clouds kind of pop out of the screen as if they're obstacles, but you can just fly right through them. Thought that was important for everybody to know. You can fly through the clouds, guys, don't worry. Vice Project Doom. I gotta admit, I was impressed by this one. Not that it's a technical marvel or a crazy innovative experience or anything, but the simple fact that it tricked me into thinking it was a driving shooting game, only to turn into a run and gunner, that's pretty cool, and I don't think I've ever heard of another multi-genre NES game before aside from this one and Blaster Master. I respect what this game was trying to do, but at the same time, the gameplay for both modes is pretty generic, and I was way more compelled by the novelty of the concept rather than the actual, playing it part. Volleyball, another sports game with too many characters on screen at once, but as far as the NES sports games go, it's fine. Once again, the Soviets won, they're always so coordinated, god damn it! Versus Excitebike. This is just Excitebike, but with challenges? Cool. Hey, I'm glad it's here as an option, but today I learned that I'm an Excitebike purist. Wario's f***ing Woods! I feel like I'm the only person on this godforsaken planet who actually enjoys Wario's Woods. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a Wario's Woods aficionado or anything, but I really like it. It's just pure stupid fun. This Toad is a beefy powerhouse, and it sucks that all of his bones broke and he died after having to carry all these heavy blocks around. All for Wario to come and force him to work faster anyway. That's a metaphor for capitalism if I've ever heard one before. I really do like this one, but I can see why others don't. It's a little bit difficult to get a grasp on the controls, and things can sometimes feel a bit too hectic for a puzzle game that requires quick precision. Still, this one deserves more respect than it gets. Please give Wario's Woods a shot. Don't let this Toad's death be in vain, people. Wrecking Crew. This one's pretty charming. You get to destroy stuff. I can't dislike a game where you get to destroy stuff. There's even a level editor where every single item at your disposal is mapped to one button and you have to cycle through them in order to pick one. Why? Good, if not barebones fun nonetheless, and this game will live on as one of the most annoying Smash stages. Yoshi. Okay, first of all, does anybody else constantly forget that this was Yoshi's first appearance and not Super Mario World? I mean, who can blame us? It's not like Nintendo ever acknowledges this one exists outside of these Virtual Console re-releases, but nonetheless, this is very similar to Wario's Woods in that it's a very wacky puzzle game that I can appreciate. I like everything about the music and art style, and it's good fun, but it has the same problems as Wario's Woods, and I can definitely see why those games died, but Dr. Mario lives on. Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. Just gonna be honest about this one, I've tried playing this game several times throughout my life, and like the original Legend of Zelda, I just can't get into it. But with that game, I can respect everything it was going for and the fact that it's a genre-defining experience. With this game, I just do not like this game. I can't even explain why I don't like it, I just kind of despise it. I mean, props to Nintendo for fleshing out the art style and giving more character to these NPCs that were previously just blobs, but like I said, I really can't explain what it is about this game that I don't like, so I won't even try. I just hate it.
Alright, I finally finished playing through all the games on NES, Nintendo Switch Online, and if there's one thing I learned while making this video, so many of the games on NES Nintendo Switch Online are complete and absolute garbage!
I adore the NES, I respect the hell out of it, but so many of these games just aren't very fun to play anymore. Sure, some titles like Kirby, Punch-Out, and the Super Marios have held up quite well, and I even enjoyed a few games that I didn't expect to, like the beat-em-ups. But so many NES games are very much a product of their time, and some of them, like the sports titles and the fucking boat racing game, were irredeemably bad from the moment their cartridges were printed. I guess my final point is that while I'm glad the NES exists and I'm grateful for its place in gaming history, I wish Nintendo would stop milking these games for every last ounce of nostalgia that they can produce. NES Online is cool and all, but these games have been re-released so many times already, and the fact that we have to beg this company to be more liberal with the back catalog from their other systems is a real shame in my opinion. It'll likely be another 2 or 3 generations before Nintendo starts dangling my nostalgia in front of me, forcing me to pay X bucks a month for the opportunity to replay games like The Thousand Year Door or Beautiful Joe unless I want to either use emulators or give an asshole on eBay $100 for the privilege. Hopefully we'll eventually be able to pay a yearly fee to play Game Boy Advance, N64, or GameCube games on our Switches, or maybe Nintendo will be cool for once and set up a Wii-style virtual console service again. But let's be real, this is the same company that remade an original Game Boy game and charged full price for it. If they ever re-release The Thousand Year Door, they'll definitely charge $60 per chapter.
Well then, I finished all my New Year's resolutions with about 360 days to spare. I almost burned my eyes out trying to play all these NES games. There's only one thing left for me to do. I've gone completely blind.